All right, good day and welcome to today's section of our 30 Days of Code Challenge brought to you by Code Flex. Today we'll be looking at events and event handlers in event listeners, sorry, in JavaScript. Now, this will be very brief and it won't be take much of our time because there's nothing really much to talk about in events. Events are actually actions that triggers other actions, right? So when we talk about events in JavaScript, we are talking about the things that user do that initiates functions to run, that initiate particular codes to run, right? Function that, sorry, actions that user take that causes the execution of certain programs, certain functions, certain logics that have been set in our program, in our JavaScript, sorry. So event handlers are very important in front-end development because front-end development is all about users interacting with what they are seeing on the screen, right? So when they interact with what they see like that, their interaction causes things to happen, right? Like I want to go to another page, I need to, you know, do something in order for me to get to another place. I need to that other place. There's an instruction that takes me to that other place, right? I need to initiate that instructions, right? I need to do something in order for that instruction to run. So that thing I will do as a user is what we refer to as events, and the instruction that run is the event listener. So they are just there. Like, okay, let me just take let's work with functions are just there, right? You can create a function and call it immediately. You can also create a function and don't call it. Now when you create a function and you don't call it, yeah, the function is existing, but it's just there. It's not going to do anything until you call that function. It is when you call the function that you tell the function to actually run, right? So at this point, the function is listening, right? It's somewhere listening, waiting for something to trigger it to run, right? So at that point, the function becomes an event listener. So when a user now carry out a particular event, if the event is what causes that function to run, the function will now run. So events and event listener are usually, side by side. They work together hand in hand, and there are lots of event listeners. There are lots of events in JavaScript, and once there's an event, of course there will be a listener for that event. So there are lots of events, like I've said, in JavaScript, and we will not be able to look at all of them. We will just pick few common ones and talk about them, and it's the same fundamental concept, right? Once you understand the concept is all you need, right? When you understand the concept, you will know how to always use your events, right, in your code. So without wasting much time, I will because we are going to have to actually look at it. Let me give this a title. I have created HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file, but I will just need to link them. Let's say events, events and event listeners, right? And I want to link my CSS to say styles.css, and I want to come to my body and link my JavaScript here, src, oh, sorry, scripts.js. So now my HTML now is now connected to my CSS and my JavaScript. So for the purpose of this section, I will just want us to play with something. Let me have my main here, and inside it I want to have my UL like this, and I want to have li, and I just want to, they are not links, so they're not taking us to any page, so I want to just put tests node in there. So I want to copy this and have plenty of it, right? Just three. I want to call this sorry, let me take this call. So like, okay, I will change this to, let me just say class, and let me take this one to age, right? So, okay, and I want to give this an h2 of events and event listeners. All right. So now, what we want to do, I want to also add two buttons here. I want to say I want to have buttons. Okay, button. This one will be um mm, add events, and I want to also have another. I want to give this an ID of add EVT. So I want to copy this and also have it here, but this one is going to be remove EVT, right? And this one is going to be remove, just like this. So now we have two events, two buttons in here. So now let's go to our JavaScript and select this, right? I want to use a simple way to just explain this. Let's look at how we can toggle our general background, which is our body background, right, with this. So the first thing I'll do is, like I said in one of our sections, I will first of all have to select the element I want to add events to, right? I want to add events to my button. So I want to create a variable called let's add btn equal to document dot get element by id. Let me use id, and is what is add what add evt. Okay, add evt, and that is one. And the second one is copy. The second one is remove remove bt, and we want it to remove what? We want to use remove evt here. All right, remove evt. Okay, so we have our two buttons selected, and another thing we want to select here is our document body, right? We want to say let our document body, I want to give it body, let body equal to document dot body, right? Sorry, document dot body. And we want to now come and, like like I said, there are numerous events, right, in JavaScript, but we are going to look at only few. Most common one, the one we usually use frequently. If you feel like you need to know more, you can check W3 School, right? W3 School. If you come to W3, oh sorry, W3 Schools. If you come to W3 Schools and go to JavaScript, and you go to, let's see, where do we have that? Okay, events, right? When you click on events, if you go down, you will see a reference to, okay, DOM event object references. So when you click on this, right, it's going to take you to where you have all events. Look at them listed here. So this is a documentation for you that you can always fall back to in case you need a particular event and you cannot remember. Just go to the school or go to MDN, just go to any online documentation for JavaScript, and you will always have access to them. So for today, we will just look at the common events, the mouse events. Like, events are actually categorized in different ways, right? You can categorize events based on the devices. For instance, there are events that are peculiar to mouse. They work with mouse. They are mouse events, right? You also have there are also some events that are peculiar to keyboard, and there are some that are peculiar to forms, some to to Windows, some to DOM, and all of that. So we are going to just look at, if we talk about Windows, you talk about reload, unload, sorry, not on the load event, right? That's talking about the window and the DOM. If you look at keyboard, you have the key down, you have the key up, you have key press. These are events that are peculiar to JavaScript to your computer keyboards. Then you have form events like the submit events, the change event, right? Then talking about mouse, you have the click event, you have the mouse over events, you have the mouse out, you have the mouse up, the mouse down, right? Those are events, different events. But like I said, we are going to pick few, and we cannot talk about events without talking about the click events, right? So the first thing we are going to look at here is the click event, which is a mouse event, right? Now, sometimes what people don't understand is, okay, I will get there. Let me just use a click event. Let me create a function and tell the function what it's going to do when it is run. I want to create a listener now, right? I want to create a listener. Like I said, it's usually a function, and I want to say handle. I want it to handle what? To handle click. So I'm saying that what it should listen to is click, right? I want you to listen to click, right? So what should happen here? I want to take my body here. I want to get my body and style it, right? And give it background color. Background color of what? Let's see. Want it to be dark. Let's use 033, right? Oh, sorry, it has to be a string. Okay. We want it to be 33, and then we also want the color body dot style dot color to be equal to white at this point, because when it's dark the color has to be white for sorry for good contrast, right? So we have this. Now this is not going to run. Like I said, we have to call a function before it can run. This is just a function, it's existing but it's not running. But for it to run, I have to come here and say handle click. I'll call it. I have made a reference to it. I've not called it. For me to call it, I have to add the parenthesis, right? So when I add my parenthesis, the function become called, right? Now you see that everything has worked. You see that the background has changed and the colors have also changed. So if I comment it out, you see that it goes back to what it is. So, but call this is me calling my function directly. I am not allowing it to wait for an event. So what we want to do today is to see how our event listener can function by listening to events, right? So I'll do that by taking this off, and the usual way, the elementary way of doing it is by coming to my HTML and add uh, an event attribute, right? I will add on click here because we are looking at click event. Now, one thing again is whenever you are using your events inside your HTML, you always precede them with on. You see on change, you see on mouse over, on mouse out, on mouse down, on mouse up. So that is how you do it in DOM inside your HTML. But if you are doing it in JavaScript, you don't usually need to do that, especially when you are using the add event listener method, right? So what I will do here is to now call my function because my JavaScript has been linked to my HTML. So my HTML now sees that function even though it's not here. So I will say handle click, right? I think that's the name. Handle click and call it. So now you see that I call it, but it's not going to run. What I mean is when this button is clicked, that is when the function should be called. So now when the button is clicked, the function is called, and you see that happen. So that is just that about the click event. But usually I always tell people that it's better to keep JavaScript inside JavaScript and keep semantic inside HTML, right? So doing that, we can just do everything inside the HTML and inside the JavaScript by using the add event listener method, right? So what I would do is to pick my button, the add button, right? I'll say add button, and I want to add event listener, right? So what event listener am I adding? Well, sorry, what event am I adding? I put the event name in a string, right? In quotation to make it string. So I want to say is click event. Then comma, because this is a method. If you understand function very well, you know that when you can create a function and pass parameters to them, and when you are calling the function, you replace the parameters with arguments, which are the real representation of your parameters. I can say my parameters is a, b, and c. While I'm calling the function, I replace my a, b, and c with actual values like 3, 4, right? So the function will now run the code based on the arguments that I have passed. So this is a function. Actually, add event listener is a method, and it carries three arguments specifically. Although the last one is optional, but the first one is the event, the second one is the event listener, and the last one is about the event bubbling, right? So but we are going to be taking the first two arguments because that's most important and that's what we really need right now. So what events do I want to what listener do I want to add to this button? So what is the button? What is the click going to have effect on? What is going to change when the click occurs? So that is okay. So what listener do I want to add? Like I already created my listener up there, which is the handle click, right? So I can just take my listener, make reference to my listener in here. I'm not going to call it because if I call it, for instance, if I say handle click like this, you see what happened? It's going to run because me adding the parenthesis is telling the function to run immediately. That's what it tells it to do. So I will not do that. Rather, I will not call it. I will rather reference it. So by leaving this like this, I reference it. So it is when the event now take place that the function will be called. All right. Now that is just that. When I click, you see it run. It's as simple as that, right? It's better to always write your code like this, write your function and use them because it's going to be better like this if you want to maybe remove the event handler. Like you can actually use event like handlers like toggles. So we can say, okay, we want to create another event that listen to when another button is clicked and want to take this particular style of our body, right? So I'll also come here and create another function here, and I'll say maybe remove. What am I removing? I want to remove events. Do I have? Okay, I don't think I have a function like this. Remove events, right? I want to remove events, and this is my function, right? And when this function runs, I want to get my body, give it a style, background color, equal to empty string, and body style color, so equal to empty string. So we have this, right? And I want to add another event, but this event is to the second button. Oh, I have remove button. Is to remove btn, and I'm adding event listener of click still, right? And I'm calling the function of remove event. Sorry, I'm referencing the remove event function. So when we add this, we can remove it with this. We add this, we can remove it with this. We add this, we can remove it with this. So one other thing I can do here is I can say that when this remove is clicked, I want to remove event listener from the first button, which is add button, right? I want to say add button dot remove event listener, right? And what event listener am I removing? The same events I added. And what's the function? Handle click. So now see the difference. I click, it goes off, but when I click again, it's no longer working because I have removed the event listener. So I have, it's almost like me saying this event should only run once, right? But when I take it off, when I don't remove it after click, you see that it's still working. But immediately I take that, it's going to work once. It's going to add it once, and once I remove it, I can't add it again. So there are many other things. I'll take that off. There are many other events, like I said. There is mouse over events. So I'll come here now and say I will remove click and say on mouse. Sorry, keep using on mouse over, right? That means the same thing you call hover in CSS, right? When I hover, it changes, right? So when I click, it goes off. When I hover, it changes. Then I can also say on mouse down. So that means when I press on my mouse button, right? When I press, it's almost like this is a click, but this is actually not a click, right? Because in click, a complete click event is you pressing and releasing the button. But a mouse down does not require you releasing the button. All you need to see is that you click the button. So now you see it here. Once I click, I hold it down now and it still runs. If I refresh, if I click and release, it still runs. But that's the difference. If it is a click event, right, I have to press and release before it's going to run. If I click and hold, I've clicked now, but it's not making any changes because I've not released. A click has not been completed until I release. So a click is a combination of pressing and releasing the mouse button, right? So that's just the difference. Then you also have mouse out, right? Mouse out, which is opposite of mouse over, right? So you see, I mouse over and nothing happened because I'm inside of the button now. Nothing has happened, right? But immediately I remove my mouse, it happened. That is mouse out, right? That's mouse out event. Then we also have mouse up, right? Mouse up, which is like I said, mouse down is when you click, excuse me, when you press your mouse button. Then the opposite of it is mouse up, which is when you release the button. Now, if I go into my event, I'm in my event now. If I click, you won't see any changes until I release. When I release it, that's when the change is going to effect because it's only going to listen to mouse up, which is me releasing my mouse button, right? So, which other common mouse events do we which other common events do we have? And another thing also I would like to quickly talk about before I leave is that in mouse down, right? You see this is mouse down. I click, sorry. Oh, typo. Okay, now this is mouse down. I click and it's working, right? Because this is mouse down. Now, if I use my keyboard, for instance, you see, I use my tab to get into the add event. I hit enter. Okay, let's say it's not going to work. Let me use my keyboard now. Sorry, to navigate to that add. Now I'm there. I am hitting enter, is not running. I'm hitting spacebar, is not running. That is mouse down because it's a mouse event. It's peculiar to only mouse. It can only work with mouse. But if I change it to click, right? If it's a click event, right? I don't need to say it's not going to work with keyboard. If I use my keyboard to navigate there and hit enter, it's going to work. That's another difference between the click and the mouse down. So, like I said, this is just a brief. All you need is is the fundamental, which tells you how you can actually use your HTML to call your event attributes there using the on click, on mouse down, on mouse up, and on mouse over, and all of that. And also how you can use add event listener method to link to connect events and event listeners together, right? So thank you very much for being part of this wonderful section today again, and I will be seeing you in the next section. Thank you also to CodeFlex for making this possible, and please like, share, and comment, and I will see you in the next section. Thanks. Sorry for the distraction. One of these days it happens. All right. I'll see you in the next section.